Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Oviedo City Council meeting. If everybody can please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chief White, if you wouldn't mind.
Good evening.
Evening, Chief. How are you?
Very good. If you'd like to join me in a word of prayer, please do so at this time. Father God, we give blessings and ask for blessings for everyone in attendance tonight, for all of our community. Lord, we thank you for those that are willing to step up and serve and lead the city into its future endeavors. Lord, we pray for our city staff, public safety, all of our workers across the board who work so hard day in, day out. And we're reminded, Lord, of service of our military veterans and what they contribute and keep us safe in such an unsettling world. We bless them, Lord, and keep them safe, keep their families safe and in good health. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chief. This time I'd like to call our meeting to order. It is approximately 6:32. Barbara, I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. It's approximately 6:32 p.m. We have 4 members present. Councilman Britton is away on business this week. Which microphone is? Can you pull yours down?
Are we testing for feedback?
Yeah, I can hear it. One of them is feeding back. I don't know which one. Well, we'll see. We'll just work through it, guys. Sorry about that. We have no ceremonial items this evening, so our first order of business is the approval of the minutes for July 10th, 2017 work session, the July 17th, 2017 regular session, and the July 24th, 2017 special session. I'd like to entertain a motion to do so.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion on the minutes?
Looks good.
Anything? No.
I thoroughly enjoyed reading the July 10th minutes, so thank you for capturing the moment on that to the city clerk.
All righty. With all that being said, the motion on the table is to adopt. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, next item is public comment. We have one written request, and that is from Dean Tasman. Dean, come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Oh, I have 2 written requests. I'm sorry. I'll get to that one in a second.
Hi, my name is Dean Tasman. My address is 5900 North Dean Road in Orlando. I have a financial interest in a property located at 784 South Central Boulevard in Oviedo. And before I start, I just want to say something to Dr. Coria, because she goes above and beyond any city employee I've ever dealt with in my entire life. She goes the extra mile. She tries to think out of the box. She actually tries to help people where that is not always the case. So she should be commended.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you.
This is in regards to the new pharmacy zoning or change of zoning. That's my speech. I am not for or against medical marijuana. It does not mean anything to me. I have one problem with what the mayor did say at the last council meeting, which was, we have every darn pharmacy we need in the city of Oviedo, and I quote, we don't need more pharmacies, we need a marijuana pharmacy, something to that extent.
I'm not quite sure that's what I said, but okay.
I'm quoting it verbatim. We have every darn pharmacy we need in the city of Oviedo. We don't need more pharmacies. It doesn't matter. We do have lots of pharmacies in the city of Oviedo. But we only have retail pharmacies, per se, in the city of Oviedo. There are many different types of pharmacies which the council may not be aware of, which I want to bring to their attention. They have community pharmacies. They have consultant pharmacies. They have pharmacies that compound. None of these pharmacies are located in the city of Oviedo. They're consumer-friendly type pharmacies. They're veterinarian pharmacies when you need special pet meds for your dog or cat or horse, whatever it happens to be. The only place to get them now is to go to Winter Park Taylor's Pharmacy. Some of you have probably been there to get that special medicine. You could have a pharmacy without drugs, okay? So now you want to limit the location of a pharmacy to only commercial zoning, where a pharmacy could be in an office and the state of Florida approves pharmacies without any drugs at all. It's a consultant pharmacy. They go through your medications. They see what you need, don't need. They don't sell any drugs. You pay the pharmacist by the hour. And it gets reimbursed by insurance companies. So for you to limit pharmacies to only C1 and C2, or C1 with an exception to C2, is not fair. We purchased a piece of property. We went to the development meetings. We were told we could put a piece of pharmacy on the property. It is located on 434. There's only four lots zoned with the zoning, which is MUD-NA. One of the lots is from the Hamptons. It's already built on. Another lot has a little tiny house on it. And there's two other lots, one which we purchased. We feel like we have been unduly burdened by the city of Oviedo. That's a quote out of the Burt Harris regulations. And all we're looking to do is put an independent, consumer-friendly pharmacy on the back entrance of Oviedo on the park. People would come there. They would come with their children. They could actually speak to the pharmacist. They could actually consult with the pharmacist. There's rooms in the pharmacy to speak to the pharmacist. It's just not a retail environment. So I just want to let you know that you're limiting the locations of these types of pharmacies to only commercial, to C1 and C2, which is not correct. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next written request I have is from Joshua Kovac. Joshua, how are you?
I'm good. Good evening.
Just name and address for the record, and then you got your 3 minutes.
So my name is Joshua Kovac. My address is 421 Hillcrest Drive in Oviedo, and I live more or less adjacent to Evans Square, which is under construction going in. And at least it was my understanding they were going to preserve the canopy along South Lake Jessup and also along Hillcrest. And so far, so good, but they've basically buried these trees along Hillcrest under about 4, 5, 6 feet of dirt, and I'm pretty sure those trees are on the way out. And I hope they take care of those trees. I understand there's some difficulty fitting the driveways in and around those trees. I would hate for them to inadvertently be killed and then conveniently cleared and make room for whatever the developer needs. So I'd like to have something done to try to preserve those trees.
Joshua, I want to assure you, somebody brought that to our attention, what, guys, about a month ago, maybe? Right? About a month ago, and
Okay.
if you check with staff, they have a plan with the developer, and they have been put on notice about those
Okay,
trees.
yeah, because it won't take long and they'll be gone.
No,
So-
you're right.
Okay,
You're
thanks.
absolutely right, but we appreciate you taking the time.
All right, yeah, I bike home every day from work. I go under those trees. I enjoy them, so I'd like to see them stay.
Well, we want them to stay too.
Thanks.
And the developer actually, if I remember, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they flip driveways or something, Brian?
That's what they said they were
They're
going to do, but
working
they
on it,
have not pulled the dirt back.
Yeah.
And I spoke with the developer a couple of weeks ago, and there seemed to be some confusion about whether it was going to be David Weekley handling it or the developer. So I don't know if that's been worked out at the staff level.
Mr. Cobb, can you just, I'm sorry, Megan, if you can just follow up and just make sure that they're doing what they promised
Yeah.
that they would do.
Yeah, when we got the complaint last month, we actually had our arborist go out and check the health of the trees. He said they were still healthy. There was some, they did need to get the tree barricades back up is what they needed to do. It's almost like a tree well when you look at it. There's dirt around it, but there's an area that it goes down to the at grade at the root. But we're constantly out there checking on them too because we want to make sure that they are preserved.
Okay. Yeah, they just added a bunch more fill over top of what was there. So,
Maybe just double check.
Yeah, we will.
okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Joshua.
Appreciate
We
it.
appreciate you bringing it to our attention. That is the end of the written request. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to address council on any item not on the agenda this evening? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment portion and move on to the consent agenda. Tonight, that is items 4 through 7. What is the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Deputy Mayor?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as it is presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No, sir. Looks great.
Looks good.
For another time, yes. It made me think.
Okay. I'd like to discuss number 7 a little further, if everybody doesn't mind.
Sounds good.
Is that okay with everybody? Motion to agree, second to agree?
Yes.
All righty. We're going to make number 7A for our first public hearing. All those in favor of the modified motion to approve consent agenda items 4 through 6, pull item 7, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to item 7 first. That is resolution number 3453-17. Mr. Cobb, can you give us an introduction on this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a request for the council to approve an interlocal agreement with the cities of Lake Mary and the city of Sanford to share our employee wellness centers between the three cities. The Lake Mary and Sanford have a employee wellness center, just like we do here on our campus, operated by Care Here. The idea actually has been around since we began looking at the wellness centers. When we first toured the Ocoee Wellness Center, they informed us that they actually share theirs with the city of Apopka. And so it would be a similar arrangement between Oviedo, Lake Mary, and Sanford, in which it would allow people who are eligible to use the centers. I guess the best example I can explain is that if we have a city employee and they live in Lake Mary or they live in Sanford, then they could utilize the Lake Mary and Sanford wellness centers as well as using the one here in Oviedo. It would also allow, if their dependents are part of our plan, their dependents could. So it would be easier for them to go to the Lake Mary or the Sanford Center and rather than driving over to Oviedo. From what I understand, the regular costs would be absorbed between the three cities, and then the pharmaceutical costs would be the ones there would be a special arrangement for those to be divvied up. It's recommended that the council adopt resolution number 3453-17.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Was that the presentation, or does HR have anything to add?
Ms. Collins might have more.
Do you have anything to add right now? Connie? No? All right. Why don't we get a motion on the table, and then we'll go into discussion. What is the pleasure of council on this? On resolution 3453-17.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 3453-17.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilman Henkin, you have the floor.
I just had
Deputy
talked
Mayor,
to
excuse me.
I talked to Ms. Collins today about the synergies that us being able to, and our employees being able to have some other options to go, not to just to this clinic, but to the Lake Mary and the Sanford one. So it looks like there's more dates, more time, and it's not really going to affect the traffic in ours. So I think it's a good thing.
Okay, great. Council member?
As long as we don't have any indication that people from Oviedo would not be able to, if everybody lives in Geneva and the most convenient place to come is Oviedo, that didn't occur to me until you pulled it off the agenda. If people are living closer to Oviedo than other places, then Oviedo employees may not be able to get priority appointments at our facility. Is there a concern with that from the HR perspective?
Hello. Our Care Here staff has assured us that our employees who are ill and need services, just as they are presently able to do, can call in, and they do a wonderful, wonderful job of trying to work them in if the schedule is booked. The employees from the other cities or their dependents would have to go online and set appointments, and only appointment availability would be available to them. They wouldn't be able to kick out any employees who already had appointments. This is currently working very well with Sanford and Lake Mary, who are sharing, Apopka and Ocoee, who are sharing. I think Mount Dora is also sharing. This opens up the availability for our employees that live in Deltona and DeLand to have a closer facility, the Sanford facility. They have some late night hours that are available so that they or their families could go after work. They have some early morning hours also available that would open up and perhaps relieve some of the pressure on our clinic facility. So we actually hope that it will do more to better manage the utilization of our clinic.
Thank you. That sounds good if it's extending the hours available then.
Great.
That's all I had.
Okay,
Want to make sure we were
Councilman.
covered.
I just want to make sure that it, if we do this, that it wouldn't cause a situation where we would be overly burdened to the point where we would have to expand our services, because what we have right now seems to be working for the staff level that we have. So if we were to put it in place, and all of a sudden there were employees from these other neighboring cities that are taking up all of our spots to where we would have to expand it, we would definitely need to reconsider that.
Mr. Mayor?
Just hang on one second. Was that in the
That's
form of a
it.
question or just a
Nope,
statement?
that was just a statement.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I was just going to say, when I spoke to Connie today, I think one of the things that is nice is we can try and see how this works, see if it, gives availability. A lot of times people will go on the site, try to get an appointment, it might be a week out. But if it does exactly what Councilman Pollock is saying, we have 90 days or 60 days that we can go back to the way it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? No. Connie, if I could for a moment, I do have a few questions, and maybe bring Mr. Kerr here with you.
I have Sean Fleming from our broker group, the Garing Group, also, and they help us manage the Care Here third-party administration.
Terrific. Ever since we started the clinic, when you first took us on tours, we were looking at cities that work together. So, I'm not trying to sound like I'm not an advocate of this. I think this is terrific. I think they all should be tied together, personally, not just the three here in Seminole County. My only concern is what you've heard voiced here this evening. Sometimes appointments are a little tough to get at our clinic, and I realize that you can go to another clinic now, and perhaps if folks are using other clinics, it'll free up time here, but then other people are going to use the one that we have. Also, the next question, I know they offer different services up in Lake Mary and Sanford, I think, than we offer here. I've heard that they have different x-ray services. I know we have the x-ray machine. They might have something with MRIs or something, I think I heard. Is that all going to open up to us now?
Actually, we're going to enter into the agreement with CDI, which will open up imaging services for our employees. They don't have to go to Sanford or Lake Mary to get those services because they're offered right here in Oviedo.
Okay.
But they actually brought that to our attention. Care Here brought that to our attention. So we're going to plan to make that available to our employees this year as well. And that way our employees will save the copay.
Are we also going to keep the x-ray equipment that we have and use that when we need it?
Absolutely.
I know you use
Yes.
it when somebody's hurt in the field. I know
Oh,
they get an
yes.
x-ray right away.
Yes, we will keep our x-ray equipment, but this is imaging, MRIs that will be made available at no copay to our employees, which is a nice service that will also help perhaps save the money to the plan. Sean, is there anything you'd like to add?
Good evening, Sean Fleming, Senior Benefits Consultant with the Garing Group. The one thing I would add kind of to all your concerns is we have a number of groups that have done different interlocal agreements like this where they have multiple facilities. And the nice thing is, contrary to some other things you do, it's very easy to kind of change your approach. And to your example, if we see that the Oviedo slots are constantly filled, but, another entity's spots aren't. That doesn't necessarily mean that the three groups can't come in and say, you know what, we realize that everybody's going to this facility. Let's actually bump the hours up there, and maybe we'll shift some of that out of the other locations so we don't, end up paying for something that's not being used. Obviously, everybody has to be in agreement, but I think the great thing about a clinic versus an insurance plan is it's very fluid and flexible that you can adjust and make the changes that kind of fulfill the city's needs the best.
Well, that does, it's nice that we're going to open it up. It's nice that we are going to get additional services. I mean, the clinic has worked extremely well in helping the city contain our cost on our health insurance over the years, and I just want to make sure that we keep it that way. Thank you. Well, before you go, does anybody else have any questions? No? All right. Thank you. All righty. Without any other questions, the motion on the table is to adopt. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, we're up to item number 8, which is ordinance number 1651. Mr. Groot, can you read that one by title only, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Oviedo, Florida, annexing by voluntary petition certain real property approximately 18.21 acres in size and generally located on the south side of Mitchell Hammock Road, approximately 300 feet east of State Road 426, located contiguous to the City of Oviedo in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Section 171.044 Florida statutes, redefining the boundaries of the city to include said property, providing for findings, providing for conditions, directing the city clerk to record the ordinance with the clerk of the circuit court, with the chief administrative office of Seminole County, and with the Department of State, providing for a legal description and a map, providing for a savings provision, ratification of acts, and acknowledgement of inclusion of lands within the city municipal boundaries with Seminole County to continue certain permitting and related activities, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for non-codification, and the taking of administrative actions, and providing for an effective date. That's the ordinance by title, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Groot. Mr. Cobb, can you enlighten us? I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Mayor, before Mr. Cobb introduces this matter, there's in 2 places in the ordinance, there are references to 2 tax parcel identification numbers. Under the Scribner changes that are allowed to be done, the property has actually changed ownership and now has 3 property tax identification numbers. So if you do enact this ordinance, we will administratively, just to correct the ownership records, make those changes within the ordinance.
Not changing the boundaries of
The same parcels, it's just now 3 tax parcel identification numbers, but 3 separate owners.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Groot. Mr. Cobb?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for City Council to adopt an annexation of property that is located on the south side of Mitchell Hammock Road, about 300 feet east of State Route 426. It's the property immediately east of the Wawa development. State law requires an annexation to meet 3 criteria. One is that it has to be reasonably compact, one that has to be contiguous to your corporate boundary, and then the third one is that the annexation cannot create an enclave, which is unincorporated area surrounded by incorporated area. This annexation meets that state statute. It is contiguous. The property is contiguous to our boundary. It is reasonably compact, and it will not result in the creation of an enclave. Therefore, it's recommended that the City Council approve the annexation, conduct a public hearing, and adopt ordinance number 1651.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Does the applicant have anything to add?
Ryan Stahl, Equinox Development, 630 South Maitland Avenue, Maitland, Florida. This has been a journey, as you guys know. It started with the Wawa, and then we brought this piece in. This has been probably one of the more challenging developments with all the various moving pieces. So far, it has been a very successful development with city working through Wawa, the county working through the remaining portion of the property. So we throw ourselves at the mercy of the city to continue forward. So far, in re-engaging with city staff on this, things have been working really well. It is difficult, I think, for them to pick up a lot of what has already been put together by the county as well as the county to release a lot of what they've already accomplished. So all in all, we've got a little ways ahead of us and a lot of positive activity out there. The good thing about this project is you guys actually go out and touch it and feel it right now. So it's not necessarily something that's completely proposed as much as just about halfway done, and we'll finish the rest of it with the city. And as Mr. Groot said before, there was that small error, but I think we covered everything. So otherwise, we have no objections to the annexation.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ryan? No? Thank you. With all that being said, what is the pleasure of council?
Move we approve ordinance number 1651.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1651. Council member, you have the floor.
We agreed to annex it a while ago. Looks like everything's proceeding under the agreement, so there's not much to say.
Great. Councilman Pollack?
Same thing that the councilwoman just said, and you know the property is coming along very well, and it looks like it's meeting our standards. I think Development Services has been working well with them as well, even though it wasn't in the city at the time. It looks great. So we spent some time over there this past week, and it looks good.
Great. Deputy Mayor?
I'll just echo my colleagues. I agree, and on we go.
Yeah. Ryan, great job. This one did have a lot of moving parts. We appreciate you working with us in order to annex the property. I mean, you understood at the time the importance of having that here in the city, as we understood that you had already invested 6 months with Seminole County. So I'm glad that staff was able to work it all out, get you into the city in perpetuity, and of course fill it up with very nice restaurants that all of us are going to have to go join gyms very soon. Thank goodness you put Orange Theory in there for some of us, but it was a great job. And as was said, I mean, this is just everyone's living by the agreement. You followed all of our architectural codes. I mean, everything worked out great, so good job. All righty, anything else from the council? No? Okay. With that being said, all in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance number 1651, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, we're up to ordinance number 1653. Mr. Groot.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Oviedo, Florida relating to public arts policy, creating a public arts board, providing for an array of matters relating to the public arts board, such as powers, processes, and procedures, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for a savings provision, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, as well as the correction of scrivener's errors, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. That's the ordinance by title, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Groot. Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for the council to adopt a public arts policy. If you remember back in 2016, the council appointed a public arts committee that met and developed this public arts policy. Councilwoman Sladek took over for Councilman Schenk and finished out the project as the council's ex officio member. This ordinance establishes goals and objectives for the policy. It also sets the definitions of public art. It establishes a public arts board, its duties. It also states that the board will consist of 7 members and that their terms will be 3 years. One of the members will be an ex officio member from the City Council. It also establishes a public arts fund and also provides a variety of mechanisms with which that fund can receive funding. It establishes rules and procedures for the board. It also establishes that installations of public art will not be considered signs and differentiates them so that they will not be subject to the city's sign regulations. It establishes that there will also be an identification plaque identifying the artist that created the public art. And it also establishes a process for applying and reviewing public art applications. Staff reviewed the ordinance and recommends approval. It's recommended that the council conduct a public hearing and adopt ordinance number 1653.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. We do appreciate it. Jennifer, do you have anything that you wanted to add tonight?
I'd like to thank the...
Why don't you come on up here, because you were very instrumental in bringing this along, so we do appreciate your help.
I'd like to thank the committee. If there's anybody here who is on the Public Arts Committee who is here, please stand up for
I see Karen in the
recognition.
back. Great job, guys. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Councilwoman Sladak and the rest of the committee for their efforts in being very proactive and very collaborative, effort to bring this forth to you today.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. What is the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1653.
And second that.
We have a motion and a second. Deputy Mayor, anything to add?
Just out of curiosity, whenever we're doing a board, it always speaks volumes. People that wanted to apply for the board, that they come and they, take some interest. And I do see Melissa and Lisa are there. I know they expressed some interest. Is anybody else here that applied for the Arts Board that's here tonight?
I don't think they've applied just yet because they don't know.
Well,
if
filled out in a form with the clerk. So I just wanted to know if anybody else was here that was interested. It's always telling to me when you want to be on a board that you're here. So good job.
Who was my second? Council member.
I think it's great. The public loves it. I love it. So let's do this.
Great. Councilman Pollack?
I think it's great. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the city.
It was a long time coming, and it's very nice to have it in place. And it's, I like the fact that we even have a seed funding mechanism built in, so that way we can give it a little bit of seed money. Obviously, the goal isn't to make it fully funded by the city. The city will be the seed money, but to use our Friends of Oviedo 501c3 to actually go out and fundraise for it. I mean, that's going to be the goal. So it's just great job by everybody. All right. Is there anything else up and down the dais one last time? Good. All righty. Motion on the table is to adopt. All in favor of the ordinance 1653, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving along, we're up to ordinance number 1654. Mr. Groot.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Oviedo, Florida, establishing and imposing a temporary moratorium within the City of Oviedo on the effects of committee substitute for House Bill 687, passed by the Florida Legislature during the recently ended 2017 legislative session, prohibiting any and all approvals during the moratorium period for any right-of-way located within the City of Oviedo in order to allow an opportunity for the city to develop an ordinance as appropriate relating to the impacts of the legislation, providing for legislative and administrative findings, providing for geographic area encompassed by the moratorium, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for a savings provision, providing for non-codification as well as the correction of scrivener's errors, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And that's the ordinance by title, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Groot. Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee substitute for House Bill 687 became effective on July the 1st, 2017. The Act substantially amends Section 337.401 of Florida statutes, which relates to the use of public right-of-ways and structures located within the right-of-ways for broadband or wireless facility infrastructure. The Act provides that for the installation of small wireless facilities on government-owned poles and other poles and structures located in the right-of-way, and the installation of ground-mounted equipment in the right-of-way, installation of new poles in the right-of-way, and installation of new wireless facilities. It also has a requirement that a government must approve or deny an application to locate within the public right-of-way within 60 days, or the application will be automatically approved. The proposed moratorium will give the staff time to prepare proper regulations for the location of these facilities within the right-of-way. I can tell you I met last week with staff and had a conference call with Mr. Group. They do have a working draft that they are preparing to bring to you in public hearing in September in keeping with this moratorium. The moratorium does state that we will not accept any applications through September 30th. The staff recommends adoption of ordinance number 1654. When you read the ordinance by title at your June 19th meeting, you did establish zoning in progress at that time. It is recommended that City Council conduct a public hearing and adopt ordinance number 1654.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. This is a public hearing. At this time, I will open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address council on ordinance number 1654? I do not have any written request. Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public comment portion and move on to the pleasure of council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move we approve ordinance number 1654.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember, you have the floor.
I'm glad that there's an ordinance already in the works, and I really hope that it involves painting whatever these guys hook to our poles to make them beautiful and perhaps artistic. So that's my only feedback for that for now, and I'm sure staff will come up with something wonderful.
Great. Okay. Who's my second? Councilman Pollack?
I look forward to seeing the ordinance that's going to be presented. So I think that this is necessary to make sure that we have time to get it right.
Great. Deputy Mayor, anything to add?
Yeah, just briefly, as I touched on this at the last meeting, I'm going to vote for this moratorium only because it's 6 weeks, but after that I'm not going to, because I think that this is going to do a great job for the city. It's going to bring competition. Sometimes you get mad at your cable bill or your cell phone bill. Now you're going to have much more competition, and I will tell you, just doing this for my whole life, this industry, it's an industry that's got to spend millions of dollars to put things out there. They're not going to make them look bad, but I don't think anybody should be afraid of this. I think now when you get mad at your cable company or your phone company, you're going to have lots of different choices. So the only reason we have this moratorium, people don't like moratoriums. They get mad. The voters have spoken. We're only doing this to allow our staff just to get the paperwork in place, and then hopefully, I don't know what you all think, but I think it's an actual good thing. This is one instance where I think the state, I don't like when they step on home rule, but I think they got it right here to give some relief to the residents and the citizens. So this is a good thing. So,
Anything else? Okay. Mr. Cobb, I just have a couple of questions, maybe Mr. Groot. Councilmember brought up a great point, and that was one of my concerns. Are we going to be able to put some sort of architectural standards on these? Because, I think this goes a little further than them using, first off, the way it's written, they could just attach something to one of our light poles. They could just drop another pole in our right-of-way. So, I understand the need for it, and I certainly agree with Deputy Mayor. This is all for the 5G networks that are coming out. But are we going to be able to write it broad enough where we would have some features and standards built into it?
There's definitely a concern of ours, especially poles that the city owns, ornate poles. Another thing that we're very concerned about is new poles coming in. Let's take Oviedo Boulevard, for example. We have a higher standard of street light pole in that area. Most of the utilities are underground. And then all of a sudden to have a wooden pole with a device on it just sitting there.
That's what I think we're all concerned about.
That was a big concern of ours. I know the state has preempted us on a number of things. We'll just have to see if it is allowed within the state preemptions, that we'll push the envelope as far as we can, as long as without exceeding our boundaries.
Yeah, we don't exceed our boundaries, of course, but it'd be interesting to see what you all come back with. And this is only for 6 weeks, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. Any other thoughts or comments? No, hearing none, I will call the vote. The motion on the table is to adopt ordinance number 1654. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, we're up to item number 11. This is the first reading of ordinance number 1656 for HCA. Mr. Groot.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Oviedo, Florida, repealing ordinance number 1618, establishing an economic development ad valorem tax exemption from certain ad valorem taxation for Oviedo Medical Center, LLC, an affiliate of HCA Healthcare, Inc., providing for findings, intent, and purposes, providing for the grant of a graduated and declining economic development ad valorem tax exemption for a period of 5 tax years, providing for continuing performance obligations and a performance agreement, providing for review, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for a savings provision, providing for severability, providing for non-codification and the correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date and expiration. And that's the ordinance by title, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Groot. Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, Mayor. At your March 2nd, 2015 meeting, the City Council adopted ordinance number 1618, as well as resolution number 2969-15. And this authorized an economic development ad valorem tax exemption for the Oviedo Medical Center, LLC. What it established, both the ordinance and the resolution established, was a 5-year tax exemption program in which there would be discounted taxes paid over the 5-year period. The first year of the tax exemption was 2016, with the last year being 2020. I'll give you an example. In 2016, they would pay 50%, in 2017, 40, 2018, 30, 2019, 20, and then 10% in 2020, and then by 2021, they'd be paying full amount. The hospital, the idea, the intent of the tax exemption was to give the tax break during the first 5 years of operation to assist the hospital with its startup. Unfortunately, the hospital was still under construction in 2016 during year 1, and so they were not able to apply for the tax exemption. The state law requires the applicant to apply for the tax exemption each year with the property appraiser, so they were not able to apply for it due to the fact that they weren't open yet. Their first year that they were open, obviously, was 2017. They did apply by the March 31st deadline, and so to the property appraiser, and he has granted that application. What this ordinance does, it will shift the tax exemption period from the 2016 to 2020 to 2017 being year 1 and then 2021 being year 5 is what it does. At your 21st meeting, we'll bring in a revised resolution that approved the performance agreement. It has similar language in the resolution. We don't have to do anything to the performance agreement, but we do need to clean up the resolution to make sure that it's consistent with this ordinance. So we'll have 2 items for you at the 21st. But tonight, it's asked that you establish a public hearing for August the 21st, 2017.
Great, thank you, Mr. Cobb. Applicant have anything to add, or has it all been covered?
I think Mr. Cobb did an excellent job, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Casey. What is the pleasure of council? Actually, I'll make it because this is scheduling a public hearing. I'd like to entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing on August 21st, 2017 for ordinance number 1656 here at Oviedo City Hall in the Oviedo City Council Chambers, 400 Alexandria Boulevard, Oviedo, Florida, 32765 at approximately 6:30 p.m.
So moved.
Motion second. Mr. Pollack, you've got the floor.
To me, it's just a correction of a former agreement. It's just moving everything by a year, so I don't see a problem with that.
Great. Deputy Mayor? No. Council member?
I see a problem with it. This, to me, looks like a corporate handout that does not serve the public's interest. Looking at the date here, February 2015 is when this all started coming up. Looks like it was passed in March for the property appraiser, or for the tax collector to value a property. It's whatever the value is on January 1 of that year. And I just don't think that anybody from the hospital thought when this was approved in March of 2015 that they would be completely completed by January 1 of 2016. So I don't know if it was like a total oversight or what was going on with that. But at this point, we are not under any obligation to shift the year. It's really just a gift of taxes. My other concern with this is in looking at the application from HCA, the value presented to council as this was being considered was $65 million. Looking at what what the property appraiser has assessed as that, it's $35 million. That is 54% of what HCA had budgeted as their anticipated tax bill in the first place. So they've got a 46% discount already that has been given to them just out of sheer luck with the property appraiser. And the $65 million was not including all of the equipment, so it's not buildings plus equipment, is that they added on top of that one of these attachments, something like $35 million in equipment, which is assessed separately. So while I'm glad the hospital's here, grateful they're here, I think that the expectation, there's no disconnect with the expectation because nobody who's signing an agreement in March to build a giant hospital is going to think that it's going to be completed then. So I know we've got the hearing next time, but that's a preview of what I'm thinking on this.
Great. I'll just add, having been involved in this since, well, it feels like the beginning of time, is the history of the HCA project. What we ran into when they were awarded the CON is they were awarded CONs and opportunities throughout the state. So what was presented to us was some sort of an economic package that could be presented to HCA in order to make sure that our facility that the community has been long awaiting for would come forth. Now, I understand your point on the timing, but they actually thought they were going to be open by January. They would have been open in 2016, but they got delayed with inspections from the state. I mean, and I guess I should disclose, I mean, I am a board member, so I am very familiar with what had happened when they got to the end of December. They were fully anticipating being opened November, then it got pushed off because of state inspections, then the state inspector got sick or went on vacation, they couldn't get them in until January, and then that's when you were able to finally open. So there were many reasons for the delay. Now, what the city council did is that this isn't a handout of government money, per se, as it was succinctly put. The voters approved an economic development package for the city about, what was that, Mr. Cobb, about 5 years ago? 4 years ago? That was the voter asked question?
More like 4 years ago.
Okay. The voters approved that in certain instances, when the amount of jobs being brought into the city were in our targeted industries, which the hospital is one, modeling, simulation, there's a whole bunch of them listed, that we could enter into an agreement similar to this so that we're not actually laying dollars out like you read about happening in the paper with other areas of our county where it's actually dollar for dollar match or something like that. What we're doing here is we're giving the hospital about a $490,000, I think it is, tax break over a 5-year period. So they're paying taxes in year one. They're just paying them at 50% of the level that they would. Then year two is 60, then 70, then 80, and then 90. And then in perpetuity, they'll pay it at 100%. So, well, I certainly understand the concern of taxpayer handout, let's call it. This one is a little bit different, and the way the timing worked on the hospital, I mean, they can certainly bring in that information, I'm sure, at the next meeting to show us why the delays occurred. I mean, it was definitely ACA and inspectors, because the state at the end of the year, I think weren't they like so busy too? There was one. Come on up, Casey. You can tell us.
I was waiting for the.
Come on.
Yes, and it's Casey Donahue, the CEO at Oviedo Medical Center. Absolutely, with the timing, we had every intention of opening in December. Actually, had shot for November, thought we were going to get into December, and it is true that ACA was backed up to the extent that we had multiple inspections and did not have the ability to provide us an inspector through the end of the year. We were forced to push it back into January and opened, I think as everybody knows, January 30th of 2017. We do have about just over 200 employees at this point, really over 300 if you count part-time and PRN staff as well. So fully intended to be open in November, but due to some construction delays, did not happen.
Thank you, Casey.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Were you involved? You were involved in the process from the beginning, correct? With the certificate of needs.
I was not. So Wendy Brandon's name is actually on most of this documentation as my counterpart at Central Florida Regional which the Oviedo freestanding ED rolled up to. I was at a hospital in Pensacola and came on board in September of 15 when we broke ground on the project.
But at this time,
Yes,
I mean, other cities that had these, that were looking for similar facilities were given similar packages. It wasn't like Oviedo was the only one given a package like this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know we compete. We have 180 hospitals across the country that are competing for these dollars for build-outs, and obviously everything's taken into account when you look at the cost of putting a facility together. All in all, I think north of $100 million when going back to the freestanding ER being built as well.
You have a question? Yes.
No, it's okay. Casey, you can have a seat. I just
Thank you.
want to make some general comments. Thank you, sir. Sometimes when you look at this, we can't always look at, the easy way here. For the longest time, I've been here since 2005, and, one of the things that takes a city from good to great, as former Mayor Walters used to say all the time, is having the facilities that we need. And I can tell you, I have been approached by so many people about hospital, getting it in Oviedo. This council, the five of us, Councilman Britton, the ones before that I sat with, we have worked so hard to get a facility here, so in the middle of the night when someone's having a heart attack, they don't have to go to Winter Park. They can go right here and be saved. And I know that you guys have saved countless lives in that hospital. One of our colleagues who sat here drove himself over there, and he proudly tells the story, and he is doing wonderful. So sometimes you got to think outside the box. There's a few things we need that we needed in Oviedo to take it great. The hospital was certainly one of them, and you guys are doing an amazing job there. So can't always just, it doesn't fit in the box, we don't do it. You have to think outside the box, and we are very close to being, I said, one day we will get this city to #1, and you guys were a big part. We're always in the top 10 of everything, and there's a few other things we have to do, and we'll get there. But, let's not be closed-minded and say, we're not going to do it because it didn't fit in the box. And I will tell you, the other hospitals that we worked on, I was in so many meetings, as were all of us. We're coming, only to be left at the altar. And in the back of my mind, you guys always had the land. We always knew it was going to be you. And through the bumps and all the turmoil that you had, you stuck with us, and this city is better for it. So I'm glad you're here. I appreciate it, and I salute you. Keep up the good work.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. At any time, were you guys planning to open by January of 2016?
January of 2016?
Correct.
Again, I got involved in September of 15 when we had our groundbreaking, and that would not have been a plausible timeline.
Okay, so
when I got involved.
At no point that since you've been involved, was it going to be open and operational with a building there on January 1 of 2016?
Not since my involvement,
Okay.
no.
Okay,
But it's
so-
been in the works for a year.
Okay, understood. And I'm grateful you guys are here, and I'm not trying to goof you over royally. I think your legal counsel may have had a little bit of a snafu here because January 1 is the time when the assessments are made. So if you don't have a freestanding building there at that time, so I'm going back looking at this thinking, well, I would have approved that as well with this time frame. And to change it now, it really is looking at it, now that we have all the pieces not moving, it does not make sense in a lot of ways. I don't think for this group, when we have a budget shortfall that we may be experiencing, to just change it. But I do appreciate all of your efforts and hope you don't leave if this does not get approved. I think you'll be here anyway because you're here.
I think we'll be here either way, but thank you.
So if we do it, it truly is just kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks.
Well, let's not forget all the ancillary commercial tax base that is going to be generated because they're here. It's already starting to happen. Doctors' offices opening up, building, Oviedo Medi City. These are all direct offshoots of this medical center coming here to the city of Oviedo. In the past 17 years, we're changing the city from being reliant on the residents. Our tax base used to be 85% or so residential, and now we're down into the 60s, 65, 68, Brian? Where are we at?
It's around 68.
Yeah, 68% now. So, residential, 32% commercial. I mean, commercial tax base, guys, no Save Our Home exemptions. They're the ones footing the bill. And our tax base is stable, our millage rate is stable, our budget is growing, and yes, we have a couple of challenges over the next few years from some old bond referendums. As a matter of fact, one of them is for this very facility, but we'll get through all that. Casey, you guys are doing an awesome job over there. Like Councilman said, or Deputy Mayor said, the amount of patients, people don't realize the amount of patients that you service each month, the amount of patients who are now going into the hospital, the amount of time that operating room is now being used, the doctors that you have brought in. I mean, folks, maybe we should state this so everybody knows. I mean, they didn't just recruit doctors from the area. They brought the best of the best in, people who wanted to be here in Oviedo, that got brought into Oviedo to work at this hospital, surgeons.
So, Mr. Mayor, their agreement specifically says that they're supposed to make every effort to hire people who are already in Oviedo. So this is sort of contrary to the agreement.
They did that in the nursing staff. They did that in the hospital staff. But when you have specialties that are needed, they had to go outside of the market to bring those specialties in. Cardiologist, urology, OB. Actually, OB you hired now local, too.
We did. We have a mix of both.
Right. OB you brought in. New ED director, right?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Hospitalists, ER physicians.
Come on.
We took the stance of finding passionate caregivers. From the very beginning, whether that be the nursing staff, where that aligned with folks that were local, absolutely. And it started with the development of our board. The first two gentlemen that I met with were David Duda and Rick Lee, and then we brought on Dr. Schultz, Dr. Patel, local physicians that have been in this community for a long time. There are general surgeons that were not available, that don't live in the community. Urology is another one. So definitely for those specialists, we had to go outside. Right now, our medical staff stands at just over 200, I believe, as well. And I don't want to get too much into volume, but at this point, I think we've taken care of more than about 14,000 encounters with patients since we've been a hospital. Not going back from January 30th. So some really good feedback as well from all those parties.
And the most I said it the day that we cut the ribbon, and I think I'll probably say that for as long as I live, the most important ribbon any of us ever cut was that hospital, because the first person you saved there, that's it. We won right there. The horror stories that we've all heard in those long trips to Altamont and Winter Springs, and to have it here. I mean, what's the alternative? We don't have it, and everybody's asking us, go get it. Well, let me tell you something. It took 12 years for me, 15 for him, and 40, 50 years from other ones to try to make this come, and it was not easy. There were days. I mean, it's not in my nature to give up. I will win, and I will get it. Okay? And we stuck with you guys, and we got it. Mm-hmm. And had we gave up, you guys would not be here. I truly believe that, because there was a lot of other cities calling. And now that you're here, hopefully you do love it. So, like I said, it can't always fit in the box. You got to think outside the box, and you get what you need, and your city prospers for it, So, all right, call the vote.
Thank you.
Mayor. We're good.
Thank you, Casey. All righty. So the motion on the table is to schedule a public hearing for August 21st, 2017 on ordinance number 1656 here in the Oviedo City Council chambers at approximately 6:30 p.m. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Well, actually, no, I should say, is it too late to say nay? I don't want to have a hearing.
You said
wanna-
aye.
okay.
Move on. You'll have your chance at the next meeting.
All right.
All right. Moving along, we're up to item number 12, which is Resolution 3452-17. Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for the City Council to approve additional attention-getting devices within Oviedo on the Park. In this agenda item, you will be serving as the land use administrators for this request. On May 16, 2016, the Council adopted ordinance number 1637, which approved a statutory development agreement and a master signage plan for Oviedo on the Park. Section 4G3 of the agreement states, except as provided in Section 4J herein, freestanding signs, freestanding horizontal banners, banners attached to buildings, pennants, streamers, propellers, spinners, statues, vehicle signs, balloons, other inflatables, commercial mascots, humans holding or waving signs, or similar devices designed for or having the effect of and utilized for attracting attention to the premises are prohibited unless approved by resolution of the City Council of the city. It is prohibited for attention-getting devices to be illuminated or placed in a parking space. This resolution provides for the inclusion of 4 map stand signs, 2 A-frame signs, 4 snipe signs, and one banner sign to be included into or added to the list of attention-getting devices that are allowed in Oviedo on the Park. All these signs are temporary signs, and they will be located on the site as long as the construction trailer is on site. Staff recommends approval. It's recommended that the City Council adopt Resolution Number 3452-17.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Does the applicant have anything to add?
No, sir.
All righty. I have no request to speak forms on this one, so I'll move on to the pleasure of council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 3452-17.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Deputy Mayor?
You know, I just look at this as this is a project, Oviedo on the Park, and I say this all the time that, you know, some people get confused. This is the people's project. This was put out to the voters. They voted it. They said this is what we want. We are now managing it. Sometimes we get a little bit of flack over that, but let's not forget this is the will of the people that asked for that in a public vote. So this to me is adding some signs to try to make it better, you know, to get it filled up, get the things they need to get the things that the people asked for when this was approved a few years ago. So to me, this is a sign package. These are, you know, things that are needed out there to make it successful, and just leave it at that. It's a pretty easy one.
Councilman Pollack?
I'm fine with signs. I just want to make sure that they're open to not just Oviedo on the Park. A lot of these, you know, attention-getting devices, we've really limited the ability for other businesses in the city to have different signs and to attract attention. And I want to, you know, I just want not just Oviedo on the Park to have packages like this.
Some multicolored tall LEDs like Vegas.
You're singing this song over here, you know.
I know, but I just hate to limit.
Well, that's a different discussion for a different time, though. Right. What's in front of us now is this one, and if that's something that we'd like to bring up, that's not a problem.
Okay.
But that has to do, that would be changing the land development code, and we do have attention-getting devices. There are things in there right now, but I can understand your point, of course.
Okay. But other than that,
wow, this was some good news. I mean, for those of you that don't follow, I lose all the sign votes 4-1 because I'm not afraid of signs. I love signs. That's how business prospers. Sometimes we got a little different road, but wow, it's getting some people on my side now.
Yeah, and when the signs go up and everybody calls my office and my email box fills up, I'm the guy who has to deal with it. But anyway.
I just want the green lights at the Wawa so I can see the diesel prices.
Oh, yeah, on that beast you have out there. Councilwoman?
Well, I'm a little bit conflicted on this one. On the one hand, I think everybody should have fabulous signs of, you know, with liberal regulations. So
this is really turning out to be
this
a
is your
great
day, Steve. On the other hand, to be philosophically consistent, I've got to go back to my thoughts on the hospital thing. Mr. Kavanaugh was instrumental in helping shape the sign policy that we have on hand. And he knew that these things were going to come up and that we were going to have to direct people in. So I'm a little bit frustrated that all of these weren't anticipated and included, and that this has come up only after I've seen snipe signs all over the place that I would presume code enforcement has probably been pulling. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm on this one. You knew you needed them, and you kind of helped break the rules. So I'm not sure if it is appropriate to grant the larger opportunity to this place when the size opportunity is not available to other people, nor is the opportunity to write the rules available to other people.
Well, that's a fair assessment. I would throw out there that we should consider this like a grand opening per se, where a business has a 30 to 45-day window to have extra signs up grand opening. It's just that when you're leasing apartments, that's a 6-month process. And your point is well taken. Oviedo on the Park, though, is a little bit unique in that it does have its own development agreement and land development code that is different than the rest of the city. I mean, that is just the fact. I mean, that's something we struggle with all the time because it is unique, because the bond money and the voters, the people's money is there. We have to make it successful. So I understand it. It's always a struggle back and forth. But if the discussion wants to become at a later date to change our sign code throughout the city, the city attorney's office is a great place to start. To learn the history of the sign code and the history of the billboards and the whole history of us winning 2 lawsuits against billboard companies and then getting one planted on Mitchell Hammock Road in the county as a salute to us as we won the second appeal. So I think that there's a lot of history to it, but I do not disagree that perhaps a revisit, as has been brought up, may be warranted. So I didn't say I was going to agree with it. I just said a revisit. and honestly, I'll just forward my email box to all of you guys. So, but anyway, so with this one, it's to me just. It's only until the construction trailer's gone. The construction is moving along quite rapidly out there. There's not that many signs in comparison to the overall size of the project. I mean, it's a huge project. When we were looking at the original signage package, the discussion was, well, my gosh, it's so many signs. Well, all of those signs are up, and it doesn't look like there's hardly any signs, in comparison to what we thought it was going to be. So. Maybe our fear was getting the best of us as opposed to being logical. So, I don't disagree with it, but this could be the easy way out. Anyway, any further discussion? No? Hearing none, call the vote. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Got to say no to be consistent.
There you go. No problem. 3-1. Motion carries. All righty, so moving on, we have no discussion items. Mr. Cobb, you're up.
No report, Mayor.
All righty. We'll go to Councilman Britton. Oh, wait, he's not here. Can somebody call him? My report, well, will be quick and brief. Let's see, Mr. Cobb, if we can just, and while we have packed land development here, could we have staff go out and police up and down Oviedo Boulevard? Between all of the construction going on there, and it's not only Oviedo on the Park, the amount of things blowing around up and down Oviedo Boulevard is really just becoming too much. I was driving up and down it today. Actually, Debbie was, and she told me about it, and I went over there and looked, and she's absolutely right. I mean, behind the fence over at Park Place or the Strand, this stuff, the townhomes, it's just, it's all over. And I realize it's construction. I realize, these guys are out there working in the 100-degree heat and things blow around, the wind kicks up, the rain comes in. I get all that, but the green area in between Kingsbridge and Oviedo Boulevard is just filled with stuff. I mean, we really got to get it cleaned up, if possible. We just have them go out there and check it. Mr. Cobb, is there any update that you or Mr. Wyatt can offer us on Garden Groves and the electric issue that was brought to us 2 or 3 weeks ago, a month ago, by Mr. Kamek?
Mr. Mayor, yes. After the resident brought it up at the council meeting, we reached out to Duke Energy, and they apparently on July 26th actually had their engineer contact the resident personally, discuss their intended improvements for Garden Grove subdivision, and now I guess they provided him their contact information, and he's quite satisfied, per my understanding.
All righty. Can you just stay in touch with Mr. Kamick and Duke and just make sure that they do address that issue?
Yes, sir.
All righty. I appreciate it, Bobby. Thank you. As we heard earlier from the annexation at Oviedo Point, I think everybody in Oviedo has been to DQ already. If you haven't, raise your hand, because I think everyone's been. Dairy Queen's opened up Mission Barbecue, cut their ribbon today. If you guys haven't been out to Mission Barbecue, you just got to go out there and hear their story, because, yes, it's a barbecue place, but boy, do they give back to the community. Just this week alone, they have donated about $10,000 to local charities. They did 3 fundraising events, starting with the fire department, going into the police department, going into a veterans event, and over the week it was $2,100, which I actually heard the fire department number was higher than the original check. Do you know if that's true, Chief? You haven't heard that? Okay, so we had 2,100. Chief Chud, now you were about 29 for the 28? Okay, right around 29. I heard it was 3,300 or so for the veterans when I was at the ribbon cutting this morning. And, I mean, these folks are just all about giving back. So it really is a nice addition to our city, and there's so many more coming. And as I was joking around with earlier, we all better make sure that our gym memberships are up to date, because it's 16 of restaurants over the next year or so or less that'll be opening up here in the city, from everything from fast casual to sit-down dining with Delmonico's, De La Vega. I mean, there's so many things coming. Marlowe's, an Irish pub. It just goes on and on and on. 1,000 Degree Pizza. I got to visit them today when I was at Mission Barbecue. I think I forwarded you guys along an email that we had received from the owners, franchisors. They're actually local, which is great. They're going to have a soft opening this Friday, and it's open to the public. Everybody can come on in. And on the 17th, you might want to all mark your calendar, because it's free pizza day. The pizza is free all day. So if anybody thinks the lines were long for DQ, I will be out of town that day, so somebody please tag me with a picture on Facebook, because I am sure it's going to be down Mitchell Hammock Road. But that's going to be the 17th, they told me, all day from lunch on. Free pizza. Just come in, order what you want. Pizza cooks in 2 minutes. It was pretty cool. They showed me the oven today. With all of that being said, I don't think we have much more going on this week, so I will end my report and turn it over to Councilmember Pollack.
All right. I was just kind of, I had a question on the old post office and the stormwater project. Are there any updates on those?
Actually, Mr. Pollack, we're going to be bringing something to you at the next council meeting.
Okay.
So we'll have an update for you then.
All right. And then the land development code for landscape trees, any updates on that? Oh.
So we have now working with 2 new ordinances. One is the LDC amendment for the pharmacies and the wireless. So all these ordinances that we have to do, in short time, takes the LDC out of the schedule.
Okay.
But the landscape will be now our next article to be tackled. Okay?
All right. Thank you. I think that's all I had. Just to add, the Mission Barbecue, those fundraising events they gave, it wasn't a percentage, it was 100% that they gave to the charities, the different organizations. It was amazing. I hope that we bring a lot more businesses in like that, restaurants that give back to the community like that.
Great. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Deputy Mayor, you're up.
You guys, I just have to mention, and it's kind of strange, when a business comes in, we usually welcome them, and the welcome they gave us, Mission Barbecue. I mean, I've been to so many ribbon cuttings and businesses opening, but those folks are really special. I mean, every day at noon, they stop and they do the national anthem. I mean, that is like incredible. So, you know,
Everything stops. Remember, they told us
Everything-
to stop serving,
everything
they stop
stops,
taking
but-
orders, they stop, they make everybody stand.
But I mean, walking in there, the welcome they gave us when we were trying to give it to them, it was just really quite unique. And the food is amazing, but they are just really special folks. And I like the way the first thing they did was took care of the police. And they took care of the fire, vice versa, the veterans. I mean, these guys are special people. So, you know, just kudos to them, and you should all check them out, and it's all good. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Slavic, you're up.
Maybe we should give them some tax abatements or something. Maybe then the hospital will start giving out free services and following suit. On Friday, August 11th, 9:15, we're just going to nip this in the rear. Anybody who does not have something going on, meet you at the Aquatic Center. We'll walk down Oviedo Boulevard and pick up trash. You guys know I love picking up trash. My kids will be dropped off by then, and we'll just have a little walk around. We'll start at one side, go to the other, and have coffee at the other end. So tell everybody you know, and we'll have a fun time. On the Hillcrest thing, the dirt is really in there. I did speak with Mr. German about it, and if staff or whoever, I don't know if y'all want me to go really get excited about it, but the dirt has got to move. Because it is, I know that the arborist is saying it's not doing anything, but it's concerning the neighbors, and if something happens, that's going to come back to us and the developer, and everybody's going to be extremely unhappy with those trees going. Then on a recycling, we talked a little bit about that at the last 2 meetings ago. Is that something that is to be addressed in the land development code down the road, creating a mechanism by which there has to be recycling offered at apartment complexes? And I'm not sure who to direct that at, but I think it's something to keep keep out in the open in the public, so you can get feedback from all of you guys about whether you think it's something that's of value, and for any developer to maybe developing apartments to be able to say something like, hey, I could do that. Ooh, yes.
We are doing this as a general rule. We get tremendous requests from the residents for recycling, and you'll see we actually have a dumpster side 100% set up for recycling, so it is a great idea. The residents love it.
Okay, so is it economically viable to do this then?
You know, it's pennies on the dollar.
Tom, why don't you come on up here? I'm sorry. Barbara needs to get this. It's hard for her. Just name and address real quick.
Sorry, Tom Cavanaugh with Strand Apartments. It's pennies on the dollar. What you get is a tremendous amount of goodwill. Everybody wants to recycle. Nowadays, it used to be you got the blue, the red, the yellow, and one was plastic, one was cardboard, one was glass. It's all commingled now. So you just basically bring out one dumpster, they throw it in there. It is a great idea all the way around. I don't see why you'd get any type of backlash from people. The only thing I can think of is if you force existing apartment complexes or existing commercial establishments, wherever, sometimes it's tough to retrofit a facility because you need kind of a separate
space.
I wouldn't say security space, but you got
Well, no,
you got to make it easy for them to get to. It's got to be readily accessible. It's got to be clean. To some extent, it has to be out of the weather elements, even though you can get the plastic with the lid on them. So it's a great idea. I mean, you can go over to the Strand right now. We got one trash facility up and running, and the other one will be coming in about 60 days. But we got a beautiful little recycling area.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Huh?
You just made
Thank
my
you.
day.
Hey, there you go.
And ask for more signs next time around if you're in another jurisdiction in the first place. That's it for me.
Great. Mr. Cobb, anything else?
No, Mayor.
I did forget one thing, so I'm going to step out of character and just add something to my report. It's just food for thought for everybody. 2-3 years now, I keep bringing up visioning, and we never get anywhere with it. I think it's something important that we need to sit down and update the documents we have as a council. We need to sit down with the residents and do a full-blown visioning, because a lot of folks who were part of the last visioning, which was, what, Mr. Cobb, 12 years ago, I guess, at this point, was the last time we ever had anything meaningful with 10 years ago?
That would be The last visioning process we did was when we did the downtown master plan back
Yeah,
in
Oviedo on the
2000.
Park, right? So I think that, you know, a lot of this pent-up misunderstanding, I'm going to call it, out in the public, is that we just haven't done a good enough job of showing everybody how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. And there is a complete master plan on how this whole city comes together. And yes, we are a city, folks. I mean, we have to understand that. But, you know, we bring it up, or I bring it up every budget year, and then for some reason or not, it gets whacked out of the budget, or we don't want to do it, or we don't have the time. So let's just consider it as we go forward into the fall. We can make it Patrick's mission as our new assistant city manager.
Hey, can I add something
Sure.
to that? Because we've had a lot of talks about that now that you brought it up. I may surprise you on this one. You know, in the last couple weeks, couple months, you know, those of you who know me know that I'm really, I'm not going to say I don't like Facebook, but it to me, it's like whatever. And the stuff that I read on there is so wrong. And the visioning, last year when we brought it up, I said, I guess maybe it's not the time. But honestly, getting a group of citizens together, putting them on that board so we can once and for all now in 2017, because we've done surveys before. The last one we did, if you take a look at our website, in 2011, 92% of our residents said they loved what was going on in Oviedo. That was the poll. It is on the website. But that was 6 years ago. So now you read some dissension online. You know, we all get emails on things. And I will say it is not a lot, but there are some concerns that should be addressed. So, Mr. Cobb, I'm probably going to surprise you on this, but I would agree with the mayor. Let's, you know, we have to ask Councilman Britton and see, but it might be time to impanel, you know, the citizens group, and let's see what they really want. Let's see if the direction we've taken the city is what they really want. I know the answer, and the answer is yes, because I have 100 and something thousand emails over 12 years, and I know what I get, but I think it's time that we go out and get a wide variety of people, a good consultant, and let them go to work. And then we're going to see exactly what's going on here. I know the answer already. I think most of us do, but I think it's fair to do that. So, you know, we got surprised with signs tonight, visioning, a lot of crazy stuff tonight. So, march on. I would agree.
Well, I think we just need a lot more information, Mr. Cobb, and I know you had sent some of it out from the last RFQ we sent out, which was probably well over a year ago now, wouldn't it be?
Yes, sir. It was
Year and a
maybe
half
2
ago?
years.
Huh?
It may be 2 years ago, but
Yeah. We got so close.
We did.
We were so close to doing it. Yeah, Stephen was here. But
we did do some, at Mr. Britton's request, we did do some modifications to the request for proposals. So we do have an updated request for proposal. We can get that to you and let you begin
Well,
reviewing.
and a lot of it is just getting the information out. I mean, you know, the Transportation Master Plan, the Parks and Rec Master Plan, we have all these documents, you know, and, you know, and I know, Patrick, you're working on the website upgrade. I mean, so we've got to get that thing updated. We've got to get it fluid. We've got to get it so everybody can get this information. I mean, it's there. It's, I mean, there is a document and a plan for just about everything that occurs. Capital improvement plan. I mean, it's out there. It's just, you know, we've got to do a better job with all the newer residents we have who aren't the same folks who were with us 12 years ago. You know, and they you know, they move into the city and they see things happening, and it's just takes time. I mean, you try to reach out to everyone that I can and sit down and explain and show them where to go. And on the most part, once you do, they start to get an understanding. But the visioning would be, I think, something that's needed. And some of those plans we had from the consultants last time about doing it, roving around the city, doing it at all different spots, coffees here in the chambers. I mean, you know, that just man on the street type of stuff. All righty. Well, anyway, food for thought. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
I forgot to mention the golf cart ordinance. Is it coming? Do we have a date? We've been
I
talking
don't
about
think we have
since
a date
May.
yet. We don't have a date yet, but I know.
Okay, because
Chief-
Mr. Grew was
working on
like
it.
Johnny on the spot. Within a few days, he'd send out a model ordinance, or not a model ordinance, but a couple other cities' ordinances. So all we have to do is like do it. And
Yeah, I think
It is coming, though, right?
it's coming. Yes, sir. It's
can
coming.
we get an ETA on that? Because it's just kind of dragging.
Can you send an email out and let us know?
We'll check with them. Yes.
And we
Are you going to
appreciate it.
get a golf cart? Are we going to see you give up the bike for the golf cart?
Driving me nuts. No, I'm sticking with the golf cart. It's cheaper.
There you go.
You realize the golf carts have to be like street legal with lights and, oh, okay, I'm just.
And seatbelts.
And
You know,
yeah,
you're not going to take a golf cart from the golf course and ride up and down Lockwood, but that would be interesting, though. All righty, so anything else for the good of the order? Hearing and seeing none, it is 5 of 8, and we are adjourned.